So firstly, just going to quickly run through the agenda. We'd like to talk about the hard bid environment as it is today, the 2D versus 5D, using the MPS, cost planning with 5D, the actual workflow, the obvious benefits, and the services that we can provide. So we start with the hard bid. The contracts which have been more popular over the past few years, IPD, design build, etc., this now seem to be getting phased out in favour of hard bid. So presently owners find themselves in a buyer's market, and there's lots more bidders trying to bid for the same piece of work, which means that margins are down, overheads to a minimum, etc. So the devil, we find, is in the details. If the details are overlooked, your bids can be incorrect. You've got to search for change orders to try and make your money on your project. And we find that a big problem with the projects that we do. The Recovery Act states that fixed price contracts will be employed to the maximum extent possible. These contracts expose the government to the least risk. So it seems that the new hard bid, which has become more popular, is going to be here to stay. Obama noted in his recovery process, cost reimbursable contracts, the wasteful, inefficient, subject to misuse, and that reforms for strengthening contract oversight, ending unnecessary no-bid and cost-plus deals, and maximising competition in procurement. We spoke to a company in Atlanta, the CEO, and he said the typical bids now are minus 4% margin. This takes me back to my estimating days where that was fixed price bids was the common way of bidding, and that it could be -2 to -6. So I think gone are the days of the nice, comfortable margins. And what we used to find when we tried to get to the -4% is that we just used to assess buying gains on different subs with no real reason for doing it other than thinking, yes, we could take 1% off him, 2% off him, and trying to really justify how we could go in on a negative number, which is difficult to do when you've got no factual-based evidence to do it. We think that by using 5D in this process, and that enables you to justify the number with more accuracy and let the estimator sleep a bit more soundly at night, especially if he has won the project. I have been in that position where you think, oh my God, have I made an error, or what have I done? First, you're not sure by how much you've won it by, and when you eventually do find that out, then it's you don't get that comfort zone until then. We spoke as well to a VP in a Florida construction company recently who was talking about he wants to use BIM in hard bid scenario, and that they have talked the talk for so long, said yes, we are going to use BIM, and then when it actually comes to happening on site, they don't actually use it. So now he said to us, it's time to walk the walk, not talk the talk. And this is something that we've been trying to say to the market for the last few years, and hopefully now it's actually going to start to happen. The third quotation on here was actually from an article that we read about when bidders choose to bomb. And we had an example case where the low bid was 25 to 30% below the second and third low bids. And that contractor just was excluded. So where he thought he's so desperate to win the work, the client thought about the problems he was going to have when he went on site and the uncertainty of this, as if this company could actually do the job and if it was all going to collapse midway through, which obviously doesn't help the client because he still wants a building at the end of it. So you've got to use whatever you can to make sure that your bid is as accurate as possible. And using 5D helps you do just that. So we have fewer large projects, many more competitors, all trying to win work by reducing margins. With lower margins, that gives the contractor less margin for error. So it's to remain competitive on fees and general conditions. The bid success can be down to the management of the fee and general conditions. So hard bid contracts are a difficult balancing act. The lowest bid wins, and then you've got to claw for change orders and beating down subcontractors to make up the difference. So we want to explain how we can do more with less information, less time to put the bid together, just by using a natural extension of what we already do today. So 2D versus 5D. We have better quality models. We've got real constructability analysis. It's not just clash detection. We can also understand where the change orders are going to arise. You've got a better idea of the documentation that you're dealing with, how many problems there are going to be, how many change orders are going to be in the project, which is all useful to know when you're putting that bid together. Because we're using model quantities and location-based scheduling, we can put together an optimized schedule in the very short period that we have, and that enables us to better price the general conditions items. And also we're getting construction caliber quantities, so we can all use on-screen takeoff and get some rough quantities to assist with the cost plan, but this is actually going to give us real useful quantities which plug straight into an estimate. So cost planning with Veeco Office, it's about crossing the chasm from 2D estimating to 5D cost planning, but it's not such a chasm that it is two separate things. With Veeco Office we can actually do both things. So you have the familiarity of your old system with the benefits of the new. It makes the estimate easier to communicate with your project team at any point in time. Normally an estimate is never finished right until it's actually finished at the end, whereas if you use this system, your estimate starts on day one and you're just replacing parts out with more detailed information as you go. So you've always got a current status of where you actually are. So with regards to BIM, it's time to walk the walk and not talk the talk. So problems with the current practice, we've got management of multiple data sources. You're getting Excel spreadsheets, square foot costs, lump sums from subcontractors with no detail, some may be more detailed. But the square foot costs, what is the basis behind that square foot cost? Can you really interrogate with the subs exactly what is behind that? Often we just accept the price that they give us, and really if we've got the model detail there, it enables us to negotiate much, much harder with them and get the best price from them. And if they understand our system, it enables them to reduce the padding that they all put in their bids. So if we've got it all in the model, we can communicate that with them and explain the project in more detail. So we spend a lot of time on manually extracting quantities, which could be on-screen takeoff, or it could be in scale rule, or there's lots of different ways of doing it. But that is very static. It's like a one-off operation to find the quantities, put them into your cost plan, whereas using a 5D system, it's always live. If you change anything in the model, everything you did last time is just updated. You can always have an audit trail of where your quantities come from, because if you select one, you can then look at it in the model and say, oh, okay, that's where it came from, and you can find any errors and make sure that you haven't missed any scope very easily. So the visual feedback is very important, and if any third person hasn't been involved in it directly in the estimate, he can come and quickly take a look, and you wouldn't even have to answer a question as an estimator. He could just see it for himself.